In this video we'll work on Ruth chapter 1 verses 7 to 8. Single sentence mode. Okay, to leave. Okay, here we see in that last example, those people left that region for the Israelites. So it takes an optional beneficiary noun phrase, but that's not in the rule. And that will occasionally happen. We, at All the Word, as we're analyzing more books of the Bible, we occasionally add arguments to some of these events, these verbs. But when you started your project, those events, those arguments weren't there. So we'll need to add this one manually. So let's add a noun phrase. It will be a beneficiary, and it needs to be optional. And then in the output, let's say the beneficiary is _1 with the preposition for. Generated text is identical. Okay, to lead. A road leads somewhere. Okay, this road leads from the Mount of Olives to Jerusalem. So the source, let's make the source _1 with from, and the destination will be _2 with to. And they, and Naomi and her daughters-in-law. Okay, again, we can't expect TBTA to get the pronouns when it's in single sentence mode. So, and Naomi and her daughters-in-law started walking on the road. That's a perfect sentence. Let's keep going. Okay, that's the last one for this verse. And they started. Okay. Okay, so here we have this coordinate independent clause. This was moved by structural adjustment rule, combined sentences, rule 1, structure 1. Let's go look at that rule. So here's a sentence and another sentence, and they're being combined. Now here, there's a subject and another subject, and they both have the same referent. They both have the same thing list index, a value of I. But here, there are coordinate subjects. This one, Naomi and her daughters-in-law. Then in the next sentence, Naomi and the daughters-in-law. So this one can't do this because of the indices. Normally, if you specify a subject index, a subject noun phrase, TBTA will find all of them. But as soon as we put an index on one of the nouns, then the others can't match. So let's make a copy of this and make it apply to two subjects when there are coordinate subject noun phrases. So let's say copy the structure, and let's edit structure number 2. So let's enter another noun phrase that's a subject. So this one will be the first coordinate and a subject. This one will be the last coordinate and the subject. And this one will be the first coordinate and the subject. This one will be the last coordinate and the subject. And let's put a noun into this noun phrase, and another noun into this noun phrase. And let's set the indices of these to J. So now we have two sentences, and they have the same pair of noun phrases, same subjects. And when that happens, we want to set both of these to Big Pro. So let's set this one to Big Pro as well. And let's insert this. Okay. Let's initialize. Okay, generated text is identical. Let's save it and go to verse 8. Okay, mother's house. Okay, so we have our Saxon genitive clitic, apostrophe S, and in English we have a rule that when this clitic, this Saxon clitic, attaches to a word that ends with S, we want to delete the S from the clitic. So this is a word morphophonemic rule. This is a clitic, but it's treated as a word for the morphophonemic purposes. So let's enter a new group here. And this will be triggered by, right here, noun phrase clitic, Saxon genitive. Okay, we need to specify our trigger word. There's only one possibility, this clitic here. Okay, the environment word precedes the affected word, and we want to specify it with alphabetic characters. So if the word ends with S, then our clitic, which is apostrophe S, changes to just apostrophe. Okay, let's delete part of this. Okay. You cannot use an apostrophe as a character because it has special significance. Okay. We, for our clitic, we actually used this, now that I'm reminded. Okay. Okay, generated text is identical. Let's go to the next sentence. Okay, pray hope. In English we say, may the Lord be kind to you. Let's deal with this one first. Let's deal with this data grid adjustment rule. Okay, and here we want to insert the word to. Okay, pray hope. We want to insert this word may out in front. And you may remember we have a special verb phrase out in front. Not here. Okay, not in this rule. Or the promoted VP, here it is. Let's insert a promoted VP and put the may into that VP. So let's edit this data grid adjustment rule. Okay, we want to delete the agent noun phrase, and we want to delete this. We also want to delete this subordinate clause. We want to delete just the boundaries. We want to keep everything inside. Here, let me mention. If we go like that, TBTA knows we want to delete the entire clause, and it will delete everything. If we undelete some of these things, that tells TBTA we don't want to delete everything, just the items that are specifically mentioned here. So we want to keep this noun phrase and the verb phrase, and TBTA will keep everything else in this clause, even though we haven't listed it, but we'll delete the clause boundaries now. And in here, let's insert a new verb phrase. We'll put it here, and we'll set the feature so that this is a promoted VP, so it will be out at the beginning of the sentence. And in here, let's insert the word may. Let's call this may auxiliary. You can't use single quotation marks. Okay, let's replace those with double quotation marks. So that will insert the word may into the promoted VP. Let's see how that works. You've just entered a new constituent of verb phrases called may auxiliary. We'll say yes. And it's up there at the top. Let's put it in there right before question auxiliaries. This may the Lord be kind to you, that will never occur in a question. So this is fine. May the Lord will be kind to you. Okay. We want, when we use this may construction, we want this to just be the stem. Let's go back to this theta grid adjustment rule. And let's specify that the verb has to be a bare stem infinitive. May the Lord be kind to you, like you were kind to your dead husbands, to and me. Okay, this was inserted by the theta grid adjustment rule. And generally, we don't want, in English, we don't want to insert these prepositions into all the noun phrases in sequence, only the first one. And there's an option up here in the setup, in the grammar tab. Theta grid adjustment rules add position insertion. By default, it's all NPs in a series. And this is a series. So we're getting this to inserted into all of the noun phrases. This is the default so that you'll be aware of it. In English, we want only the first NP in a series. So let's change that. Okay, generated text is identical. Okay, that's the last sentence. Generated text is identical. Let's save it. And because we just changed this parameter, only the first NP in a series, let's go ahead and regenerate all of our text now. That may have affected some things. So let's go to multiple texts. And now we'll do nouns 1.1 to discourse 1.1 and Ruth 1.1 to Ruth 1.8. And I'll time-lapse this. Okay, so we have an issue here. Let's go take care of this. But King Saul said, "You're not able to fight Goliath," and said, "God will help me defeat Goliath because you're a boy." Okay, it should say, "Fight Goliath because you're a boy, period." Closing quotation mark. Then David said, okay, let's find out what's going wrong here. Okay, this clause is being moved inside. Okay. Moved by structural adjustment rule, combined sentences, rule number 1, structure 3. Okay, I think what's happening, this David is matching up with this David, so there are two subjects. But this is a subordinate clause. Let's find out. Let's set a breakpoint on that rule. Okay, to set a breakpoint, all we do is click on the name, and we see down here we have a breakpoint. Initialize, generate. So now TPT will execute all the rules before this, and it will stop when it's time to enter this. When it's time to execute this rule. Okay. Let's say go until input structure found. Okay, so it found it here, but this isn't a problem. Let's say finish generation. Let's say initialize. Okay, our breakpoint is still set. Let's get past this sentence. Let's set a break word right here. So I click on that word. Now it says break word equals 49. Now let's generate it. And now let's say go until input structure found. Okay, so here it's found the input structure for structure number 3. And it is using this subject noun phrase from this embedded clause, and it's matching with this subject noun phrase in the next sentence. So we don't want this rule applying to embedded clauses. We want to specify that this first clause has to be an independent clause. So let's terminate this. Let's go to structure 3. Let's specify that this needs to be an independent clause. It can't be one of these dependent clauses. And let's see if that fixes it. Okay, it does. Generate text is identical. Let's go back. Let's set all of the first sentence has to be independent. It can't be an embedded subordinate clause. Okay. So, at this point, I would recommend rerunning all of your text again to make sure everything is still fine. I won't do that in this video, but I do want to mention one more thing. I noticed while it was generating, see all these question marks here? When we're working in the grammar introduction, the names of the books are predefined. But when we're working in the Bible, we need to supply the name of each Bible book. And we can do that by going to the ontology. And we need the book for Ruth. Let's go to S. Okay, right here. See, there are two senses of Ruth. One is for the woman. The other is the name of the Bible book. There's always a special, separate sense for each Bible book. So let's click on this. Let's click on this. And now Ruth is brought up to the top here. Now we can click on this, and we'll link this to Ruth. So now the name of the Bible book is linked to the target word Ruth. And we can see right away. So now we have Ruth here. So this comes from the target lexicon. So again, I would recommend that you regenerate all of your text to make sure there aren't any problems, but I won't do that in this video.